Hey everybody, this is Gaynor Meilke, and this is the Red Divorce program where today Red is going to stand for rewriting, elevating, and designing your life forward as you are either divorce curious or going through divorce or perhaps on the other side of divorce. I've been listening quite a bit to Dr. John Deloney, so if you have not checked him out on YouTube, I really liked a lot of his content lately. Part of the reason because it gives us a male viewpoint, and I would also say it's a pro-family and pro-female viewpoint in terms of relationships, and it's really live advice with people in all kinds of situations and lots of divorce related situations there, or people who are in poor marriages where they need to make decisions. So if you haven't checked him out, I would. I'm not an affiliate or anything like that. I just found it really valuable. One of the things that I personally found valuable in one of his discussions with somebody about a spouse who, came home with obvious symptom of being with somebody other than their spouse, um, a medical condition. That was something that I faced in my own marriage, and he made the point that if she chose to leave, she wasn't leaving him first. He actually left her. And I'd never really thought about my situation that way, but really, my ex left me at the beginning of our relationship. It's a red flag that I should not have looked past, but at the same time, being in a conscious success mindset, I have a conscious success plan program that I work through with people. You can check it out at planctraining.com. I also know that everything unfolded exactly the way that it was supposed to be. So some days it's easier than others to have that mindset. But if you are faced with what seems like a very difficult decision on whether you should leave or you should stay, I have an article on divorcegirlsmiling.com all about approaching it like a business problem. And while we don't want to suck all of the emotion out of a decision like that, it is helpful to know that you don't have to decide it all today, that you can take some time, but really evaluate, if you were going to rewrite your story, what would that look like? You're going to elevate yourself out of your present situation. Even if you're going to stay, what would that look like? And then if you're going to design whatever you wanted going forward, what would that look like? And we spend too much time kind of thinking about that in our head and not putting it down on paper. And I think that putting it down on paper is really important. Something else that I've been working with on all facets of the conscious success plan, and I think it really applies here, is the concept that for anything to be successful, whether it's divorce, whether it's your kids, if you have some, or it's your marriage, the primary foundation of all of that is really safety. So if you don't feel safe in your marriage, then that's a problem. And if it's ongoing and it's your personal safety, and that could be your freedom, it could be your emotional health, it could be your psychological health, it could definitely be your physical health. You want to establish safety first because that's going to give you a good foundation to make the wise decision. And when it comes to your kids, you need them to be safe. And we teach conscious parenting as part of the conscious success plan. I have a conscious parenting for divorce class as well. If you're interested in that or the tips, you can find on planctraining.com or our YouTube channel here. And you want to make sure that as you move through every stage of the divorce journey, that you're establishing your own personal safety, physical, mental, emotional, social, and also that of your kids and any other stakeholders in your divorce too. We also, in Divorce Girls Smiling, have pet mediators and people who look after pets during divorce too. So we have the whole family, whatever that might look like. And then as you design something new going forward, it's also important to have a real plan and a lot of good resources around you. So that's what Red is going to be tonight. Something else that I wanted to touch on too is the idea that behavior is also a language, and that's your own behavior, it's your partners or your ex-partners' behavior, and you know, also your kids. So it's not just the words that we say, it's also the way that we act. We can get a lot of good intelligence there too. So just a few words of wisdom from my viewpoint today. Something else to think about when it comes to your kids during divorce, um, and doing it consciously is, right now, no matter what age your kids are, relative to an adult who's had some experiences, they have a relatively empty kind of philosophical backpack on their back. And every time they kind of have something negative happen to them, they'll get a brick or two or four, which, they have to carry those things around. So I think our biggest job in divorce is to make those bricks either non-existent or to help our kids unpack them so they don't have to carry those around. And we can help you with that with conscious success plan and conscious parenting. And then lastly, this is something that also ties into kids, and especially when you become a single parent or you have to travel for work, or going back and forth to two homes where there might be different rules around technology. That's also an important place to shore up safety, because if your kids are being babysat by devices, they are going to be exposed to a lot of things that you probably aren't aware of unless you're really intentional and conscious about their use of devices and the longevity of their usage, and that's consistent across wherever they are. So we are working on a family intentional technology plan. That's something that if you're interested in, we can also get you some resources there on planctraining.com. But this, especially in the era that we're in right now, is I see so many parents, not just those going through divorce, who are kind of outsourcing babysitting or downtime to devices. And I'm doing a doctorate program on AI, and my area of interest when my dissertation is going to be this idea of digital abandonment and digital duty of care for platform providers, but the digital abandonment really applies to parents and caregivers as well. Because if you're consumed with your tech, you're not paying attention to your kids. That attachment and connection with your kids is going to suffer. That on top of the adverse childhood experience of divorce can really multiply it. So something to think about as you navigate a safe and calm red divorce so that you can move forward into a more conscious and better space.